Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Gideon Made It. In today's episode I want to show you how I made this copper clothing rail behind me using a piece of copper pipe that came out of the floor when they did replumbing and bits of scrap plywood that was just lying around in the workshop. Now, the space that I put it in is often awkward space in UK properties, which is between the chimney breast and the adjoining wall. Now, at some point in the future I will put in a permanent cupboard in this cavity, but for now, until that time, which is a couple months from now, I just put in this copper rail so that my housemate can hang her clothes until the cupboard is finished. Let's go and have a look how I did it. The first and probably obvious thing to do is to check how high I can put the rail, and for this I simply asked our housemate to hold the hanger as high as she could whilst I made a mark to show me the height on the wall. I then marked the length of pipe I need and cut it to size using a hacksaw and a mitre block mounted in my vise. For the mounting blocks I simply marked out 2 squares out of a piece of plywood and cut it using a handsaw. Now, I probably could have used a skill saw to do this, but for 2 cuts it is definitely quicker to do it by hand. I then marked out where I wanted to drill. So obviously the center is for the copper pipe and 2 small marks where I want to drill holes for the mounting screws. Using a 22mm flat wood drill, I drilled out the centers and the smaller holes for the mounting screws next to them. I used the larger drill you see here just to countersink the holes so you can't see them once the blocks are mounted. To finish the box I used a small block plane to chamfer and smooth the edges somewhat, taking care to work towards the center as not to break out any layers of the plywood that is perpendicular to the plane blade. I then sanded each block first using a 100 and then 180 grit sandpaper, after which I applied a matte oil from Osmo. One tip when using Osmo is to buy nitrile gloves rather than latex gloves, as the oil breaks down the latex rather quickly, making the gloves completely useless. Now, Osmo isn't bad for you when you get it on your skin, it's just a bit of a faff to clean off, which is why I wear gloves when I use it. For the copper I used a much finer grit of 240 and then just finished it with a medium steel wool. And as you can see in this comparison shot, it really brings out the copper color. And I'm very happy with the finish I got with about, I would say, 5 minutes of sanding. Very easy and very rewarding to do. Now that all my materials have been prepared, I moved on to the actual mounting. To allow for the depth of a standard hanger, I marked the center of the hanger about 260mm from the back wall. You can see there's a bit of a gap for thick coat, or maybe if you double up on clothes on the hanger. It's just to allow for that. And after that I simply just mounted the first block using roll plugs and common wood screws against the wall. Using the ceiling and the back wall as references, I marked the position of the second mounting block and repeated the process, checking and double checking to ensure I had the 2 blocks level. You'll note that I'm using a paper towel to handle the pipe. This is to prevent leaving marks on the copper, as the sweat on your hands reacts with the metal. To mount the pipe, I just slipped the second block over its one end and managed to get the other end just about squeezed into the first block, and then simply mounted the second block in its place with wood screws. To tidy up the screw holes, I used a little bit of PVA glue to fit 9mm dowels in each of the pre-drilled holes, and then just cut it flush with a Japanese pull saw. So that's it for this week's episode. As you can see, it is really easy to make a rail like this yourself, just using pretty much a drill and some basic hand tools that you will have. Thank you very much for watching. It's a new channel, so please do subscribe and send it around to your friends, or click the bell button if you want to see future episodes that I'm doing about the renovation of this house. Until next time, thank you very much again for watching. Goodbye.